I came away with such a deep appreciation and respect for the farming community. Like the hard work that goes into that, the years of experience, and there's just such a sense of community and bonds.
I didn't have any preconceived notions because I had no idea what to expect. I didn't realize I would love it so much.
The Midwest is just not, there's no other opportunity to visit it, and the kind of incredibly flat landscape, the farmland, the America's heartland aspect of it, and I've really enjoyed it.
We have much more of a concept of like what a family farm is and what it takes for a family to come together with parents and children to grow crops and to harvest them, and that I kind of just had this perception that farms had massive staffs, so there's all these people who are involved in every part of it.
Most people don't think about it. Most people just think that their food just appears sort of magically. They don't think about where it comes from. They don't think about how lucky they are that they have access to it.
It's been really fascinating to see just the amount of knowledge your typical farmer has to have, and the amount of skill they have to use all of these instruments too.
What really impressed me is the technology applied in terms of testing the soil contents and things like that.
And it's not just technology in use at the very biggest, very best farms, but it's across the board. And even if it's just a farmer buying seed, that seed has come with a lot of technology embedded in it.
Seeing how cows are milked these days with all the automated milking systems. We've seen state-of-the-art combines that can tell you the moisture levels and the yield as the crop is being harvested. We've seen GPS satellite imaging that tells you soil conditions and things like that. It's not a job anyone can just pick up and do. It takes a lot of skill, a lot of learning to learn how all these systems work.
There's lots of discussion obviously around some of the more controversial aspects of farming. I mean, there's GMOs, and they're even more controversial back in Europe, where I'm from. And then there's the use of these large intensive farms. And I think it's important for people to see where it comes from and to see that lots of the stuff they eat does come from those kind of farms and using that kind of technology. I mean, people then can make their minds up in a more informed way about whether or not they agree with it.
I think again, visiting and talking about GMOs and seeing the production, I think hearing all of that new information, it's a different angle to what's generally presented in the media. So I think I've been presented with a broader spectrum of ideas. I think in terms of advancing policy and where people should go with that, I think getting beyond the headlines is critical.
Coming out here makes me realize there's a lot of solutions to the problems of our world out here in the Midwest. Lots of different places in Africa that are dealing with poverty and hunger, and we have so much expertise out here in terms of agriculture, in terms of feeding the world. And I think, gosh, we have so many policymakers coming up with these ideas in Washington, and I think we need to reach out here to the Midwest. I'd love to figure out some ways to bring our farming expertise from here in the Midwest out into Africa.
Food security has been interesting on this trip because there has been quite a lot of focus on US production and using that for food security, which is slightly different from how I understand it. I think that the way to ensure food security is probably more about ensuring that you can supply your food needs from lots of different areas of the world, so that if a disaster, say, hit the American Midwest, then the United States could at least move to other breadbaskets in the world to supply its production.
I thought farming was all about the Farm Bill when it comes to policy and insurance programs and different types of subsidies, but now I've seen that everything from monetary policy to trade policy to what the Farm Bill has really runs the gamut of the different programs, and there isn't, I don't think, one good policy for all farmers out there, right? There are certain things that work for some and certain things that work for another.
Food security is one of those basic things that feeds into education, that feeds into women's rights, that feeds into politics. And I think the most important things for people my age and younger is to really get involved in the politics of food security. Specifically, they need to think about food for peace and feed the future.
The other thing that's important is for people to meet farmers and to meet the people behind all this stuff, to realize that there's humans and families and scientists and this whole ecosystem of people behind it.
And being really conscious of all of the aspects. So yes, being aware that there are farming families still in tradition, but also being aware, okay, we need to feed a growing population as well. And so there are different constraints and opportunities that those present.
And we were told before we came by a farmer who lives here and kindly supported the trip to use all our senses, the sights and the smells and the sounds. But certainly the sights and sounds have been fantastic.